welcome back to the channel. This your boy Hood, man. I'm finna talk to y'all real quick about that documentary that's out right now. It's on Showtime. It's like of mics and men. It's a wu-tang documentary. I was able to catch the 4th episode. It was cold. It was just so good. I was mad that I didn't catch the rest of them prior to that, but I didn't have Showtime, so I just had to catch it on YouTube. So I'm gonna talk to y'all about that, and I appreciate y'all coming back to the channel. Yo, and here's the point. If you're a new subscriber, I'm gonna give you a shout out on my channel. I'm gonna be like shouting you out and saying what's up to you if you're a new subscriber. So here's my new subscriber shout out. It's for Blues Chop Cheese. It's CH66. I don't know if that's for chop or cheese or what they're trying to give it to. But Blues CH66. Thanks for subscribing. I appreciate you, man. You got on point with me. I'm grateful for your support, man. So other than that, we are going on with new stuff. This new movie, this documentary, it was dope because I was one of the first people to have Wu-Tang album here in Chicago. I was 21 years old that year, or 20 or 21. That year they played the Wu-Tang album on a radio station they have in Chicago called WHBK. WHBK played hip hop on Wednesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays because they didn't play hip hop real crazy on the radio. It was a hip hop hour or a hip hop time frame, but you can get HBK and they'd play everything, cuss words. They would play music that was unique and from New York and whoever artist. So at one point I listened to HBK every fucking day for years. So that was just how I played. I love hip hop. I rapped. All that shit was a part of my life. So make a long story short, when they came out one year or one summer, one weekend, and they was like, yo, we finna play the Wu-Tang album. I remember sitting up in the crib like, fuck it, I'm finna tape all this shit. Because I remember hearing METHOD, man, but Not Protect Your Neck was out. And it was like, oh shit. So I was like, hit record. And they played the entire album of the Wu-Tang. I recorded on a cassette tape. And so I was bumping that shit for years. I knew every fucking lyric because I played that shit. And eventually my girlfriend got mad at me. And she threw the tape out. And I was like, oh my God, you crazy bitch. That happened when I was like 21. So I think they came out at least like 92, 93. And so I was bumping the hell out that music. I loved it. So make a long story short, when they fast forward to being famous and outrageous, big and all that shit, here you go with this documentary. And the documentary was really good. It was well shot, well produced. And all of the guys was there. Every Wu-Tang member was in it. And it was like, I like how in this particular documentary, instead of just having one choo-choo train and then it jump off the choo-choo train and go this the way and the other and hit the other sections, it just kind of just bounced around. This how I liked it. It kind of just bounced around. So one time you might be kicking it with You God, you might be kicking it with Master Killer, you might be kicking it with RZA, you might be kicking it with motherfucking Raekwon. All of that just kept me engaged. It kept me going. I'm like, damn, they switched to the other guy. They switched to the other guy. But this one was cold because as a Wu-Tang fan, I stopped listening after a while and started having to live my life. I was very young, 21, 22, you know, so it was just you bumped it on the radio with shit. I didn't keep following them after I got a little older. I kept doing other things in my life. And so I remember them, but I didn't remember nothing hearing about some person named Silver Rings. This, again, not being so deep into it, but I knew and I loved him and I knew the lyrics and I listened to every song. And Ghostface Killer was my nigga and ODB. I love the artist and Jizza, but I didn't know nothing about the Silver Rings kid. And this was such a dope information for me. And I know it's a lot of Wu-Tang fans out there that's like, what the fuck you mean you didn't know? I did not know. And so apparently I probably heard his name over the years, but just didn't know nothing about all of this stuff. And so in the documentary, it breaks down how this guy named Silver Rings knew RZA. RZA went overseas, he met this guy, and then RZA saw him as a person who he should connect with and was like, yo, I want you to do an overseas tour over here. And he was like, let's do it. And the guy started setting shit up and making stuff happen, and next thing you know, Wu-Tang was over there doing concerts in some of the craziest named countries you can ever imagine. And so they blowing up, visiting the world, and the brand is getting bigger. The brand is larger and it's becoming even more stronger, and the name is getting bigger and bigger and all this shit. But then the guys started getting a little funny acting because if the brothers, because, you know, they traveling and shit, got to be home, away from home and everything like that, going to take care of their business. They loving it because it's what their art demands, but, you know, there's a lot of shit having to go overseas. But they said they got respected, they saw a lot. But the Silver Rings guy was working on something behind the scenes, and then they cross cut that with RZA having issues with the fellas, and the fellas really coming at him saying, "Hey, we don't like this, we don't like that." And RZA got an older brother. His older brother was the CEO of the fucking company of Wu-Tang, and so the guy who was the CEO was his brother. He was getting a cut out of all the money that was coming in. And the brothers didn't like that. The Wu-Tang members didn't like that. And I don't know if that was right, you know what I'm saying? But I'm not in a clique, and I don't know how that all played out. Because most times white people get money from deals coming in if you work with them. But I don't really know how that played out. So the guy was pissed off because he was making investments with the money he was having. He wasn't going on tour like that and performing, but he was making money off of their shit. And I guess ultimately the guys was like, we don't want him to continue to make money from every dollar we bring in as an artist. So RZA had to tell him to step down as the CEO of Wu-Tang. And when he stepped down as CEO of Wu-Tang, he actually was mad. He said he don't fuck with them. He don't go back to none of their shows. He don't kick it with them no more. And, you know, they cut to some of the times when they was having arguments about money, and it was like, you know, 9 dudes plus a manager and all this stuff. You know, it's like issues. And so they was basically, then they would cut from that. And they would cut to this Silver Rings guy again from overseas, and how he was putting together this album or this mixtape or something like that. And so each one of the Wu-Tang members, he would come to them and say, "Hey, can you make a song for me or lay down some lines?" And he was like, "Yeah." And he would go do it. They would go do it. And so they would charge this guy less money, not really charge him all that kind of money like the Wu-Tang members demand off their name. And so after doing this with this guy, he came out and was like, "Yo, this gonna be our new album. It's gonna be called Once Upon a Time in Shaolin. It's gonna be a Wu-Tang album." And so at this point, the guys is all sitting inside this theater, and they giving their opinion, and RZA's sitting right there, and they and you know, this for part of the documentary, and they all are saying, "Hey, we didn't like this motherfucking dude as it was. He was cool, but we knew he was RZA friend. But then he come talking about the albums that we was making songs for him for. It's gonna be a Wu-Tang album. Well, why ain't we getting Wu-Tang money? Because when we make albums, we get a certain amount of money from using our voices, our money, our name." He said, "But we're not even getting that. He not even gonna pay us that kind of money. Like, what the fuck going on?" And so they didn't like that was happening. They didn't like that at all. And so the Wu-Tang members was pissed, and they was like, "Yo, this nigga can't come up off of us. They don't want this nigga to do this." But the kid owned the music. He got it. It's in his possession. So what they do is they come up with an idea to make the Once Upon a Time in Shaolin album the most rarest album ever in American history. And they put it up for auction. By putting this movie, I remember so not hearing a little about this, but you know, again, I'm a super grown man now. I'm hearing about it, but I'm not like digging deep into what the information was about. And so this documentary goes really into detail about how they put it up for auction, and you know, just let it sit there for a minute, and then this guy came in and bought it. But the guy who came in and bought it was actually the most hated man in America. And he was the most hated man in America because he fucked around and took the AIDS medicine that they had from being like $20 and put that shit up to $700. But since he owned it, that was what his choice was. So that means a lot of people who had HIV or AIDS wasn't going to be able to afford this medicine. And so now the guy had just bought the Wu-Tang album for $2 million in the auction, and he was playing it on his little online channel to kind of promote it a little bit. But remember, it's the rarest album ever, so nobody in the world had ever heard it other than this guy who just bought it from the Wu-Tang and the Wu-Tang members. And so I don't even know if they all heard it, but I know that RZA probably heard it, obviously. And so the guy was like, "Yo, we ain't taking that price down off of that shit." And so now the Wu-Tang album from all accounts in this documentary, which is the part 4 from their whole show Of Mics and Men on Showtime, he said that the people started being mad at Wu-Tang. Not necessarily mad at Wu-Tang, but they started knowing more about their name. They was mad at this guy. You know what I'm saying? So it's almost like our album is connected to the most hated man in the world because he bought it as a piece of art. And so obviously, if y'all don't know what happened to Martin Shkreli, the guy that I'm talking about, which is this person, he got into a beef with with Ghostface Killer at that time, because Ghostface and them really didn't like how it went down. The fact that they had sold a song to this guy, and he really wasn't the music to this guy, and they didn't really like his what he stood for about doing that to the AIDS medicine. So then after that, he got into a beef with him. Then the feds started coming after Barnes Grilly, and they took him down, and then indicted him for misleading his motherfucking shareholders, and eventually convicted him in the feds, and he had to do 7 years in prison. He's still in there right now, probably. But the other part about that is that the Wu-Tang name had become so fucking large because of this news and this all this video shit. Yeah, I think they took that guy to like the United States hearings or some shit like that, and so it was really big on the Wu-Tang name. But then RZA, at one point, after they discussed that in the theater auditorium, they had moved to another section, and it was like you could see RZA had said at one point, each one of the Wu-Tang members had came to him and was like, yo, we trying to leave. I want to go solo. I'm ready to go. And he said, okay, cool. I didn't keep none of them. I sold them all their stuff. I gave them their title or their name or whatever, the ownership that you would have if you're a record label, and I gave it all back to them. And they went on about their business. They didn't have to cut me no money. They didn't have to cut me none of their future money. They just went on about their business. And he said, I only asked them, let me keep Wu-Tang. They was like, okay, yeah, you keep Wu-Tang. So basically, each one of those guys' careers kind of, after they had a little buzz, they go back down. And so he still got Wu-Tang. So he said if we would have had all 9 members still, not saying that all 9 members are gone, but if we would have had all 9 members still with the Wu-Tang and all that shit would have happened, we would have had the biggest asset of hip-hop ever, because we still got 9 artists, but all the artists went on to other companies. So now if they make money, they're going to owe the other companies. So he was like, it diminished our profit value as a company, because with 9 members that still signed, music changed. So now we got streaming and shit. It would have been more of a push, but each one of those guys went and fucked with somebody else. So it was like, now you got to sign them and 5 more different managers to conclude a contract. It's like, so it's a lot more stressful. That's what RZA was saying about how the Wu-Tang members, eventually they wanted their freedom, but now we would have been much stronger. He said it would have been a much more stronger brand had they stayed. Had they stuck with him and was like, yo, we're going to stick it out, fuck it. I ain't going to leave, we're just going to stick it out. He said it probably would have been a stronger brand. So that's just something to wonder, man. I think the documentary is good. They shooting the hell out of it. It's 3 more episodes to watch, I think, to catch up to 1, 2, and 3. I haven't had a lot of chance to do it right now, but I think I am. Or I might continue to watch from 5 on down, and then because I don't have Showtime, so I'm looking at it when it pop up in the YouTube. And I do like this shit. You're gonna like it, man. Wu-Tang I was a fan of them niggas so hard growing up, man. They was actually like hardcore niggas. Like, and this seemed like, especially lyrically what they were saying, it was beyond my fucking scope of understanding. I was like, man. Like, I think when Raekwon said, no. I forgot which one of them said this. He said a gold goose, a low goose, gold tooth, nothing but I was gonna drink out with drug loot. No, I'm talking about, no, he said, okay, I got it. Because it's been years since I said this shit. When they got, I forgot which Wu-Tang member said this, but I think it's Master Killer, or maybe it's Inspector Deck. He said, they got stick-up kids, corrupt cops, crack rocks, straight shots. All on my block, it stays hot. Leave it up to me while I be living proof to kick the truth to the young black youth. Shorty wonder why I'm smoking sets, drinking beer, and ain't trying to hear what I'm kicking in his ear. Man, it's just that song, Can It Be All So Simple Again? Lyrical fucking amazement. Anything that Ghostface made was amazement. Anything that nigga made was amazement. But also, the Jizza was just crazy lyrical, man. That's why I say for me, they left the fucking beats up to Fourth Disciple and RZA. Them niggas had some lyrics, man. If y'all ever want to fuck around with lyrics, just cold lyrics and metaphors, Wu-Tang Clan is on a whole nother level, man. Them boys was cold. Raekwon, them boys was doing something different, man. So that was my experience with them as a young kid, recording all that shit on that tape, showing my homies I was the first one with the Wu-Tang. They didn't know what the fuck no Wu-Tang was, but that was my motherfucking whole objective, was to be the first one with it, the first one showing them, and then everybody picked up on it. So that's my story about that. So Appreciate y'all watching. Go check my new movie out. It's called Kill a Rapper. It's a dope movie. It's a cold movie with some twists and turns in it. It's official. I wrote it, directed, acted in it, made it myself. It's free and it's just for you. I want y'all to see it for free 99. Check my movie out and right on this channel. And keep following us on Instagram. Donate, all that good stuff. Check out the comments and I'll holler at y'all. And definitely subscribe because I'm going to shout out another new subscriber on my next video. And I appreciate y'all, man. Holler at y'all again. Later.